Hello, slow parenting family from across the globe. Welcome to another episode of our program, the Slow Parenting Program on Nostalgia Media. Thank you so much for joining in or call, just invite your friends to join us to be part of our program today. It's that time of the week, that time of that day of the week, every Wednesday, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, US and Canada, and then 7 p.m. West African time, including Nigeria. We come with your weekly parenting nuggets and tonics. Today, um, well, it's like c'est la vie, as the French would say. Um, our show today is not on a very pleasant topic, but then it's life. It's all about life. Okay. Life is, you know, sadness and joy, if you like. Okay. If you may. So today, our show, it's around the issue of a loss in the family. And in this particular family, the slow parenting family, we are mourning, the loss of a young man, a child of one of our family members, if you like, one of the resource persons on the program. And we know that there are families who have to deal with those uh, those kind of situations. I'm usually not very short of words, but when you have to deal with issues for which you don't have direct experience, nobody prays to have direct experiences about such. Words become scarce. Okay, but at the same time, we're going to talk about this because uh, it's about our lives, it's about our living, it's about families, it's about parenting. Wherever we hear about loss in a family, there are individuals involved. There are individuals who uh, care, not cared, care about the person uh, that would have departed. There are individuals that, would have to live with the loss. Okay, if we talk about elderly persons passing on, well, I can tell you that there's no time that's easy to deal with the loss of anyone. I can tell you, at least that I can say to you. Why do I say so? My mother lived to be 102 years old, and she would tell us, well, she was never really sick, like bedridden and all of that. So when we go to visit her, she came to visit us at that time, and she was still here with us. She would start telling stories about what should happen when she passes on. And we're like, Mama, you're not going anywhere. She said, okay, I hear you people. When it's time, come and tie me rope. Meaning when it's time for me to move on, stop me if you can. And it was like nothing's going to happen to her. The 102. And eventually, when the time when she knew it was time, I, I remember very clearly. It was a Sunday. I was in my resort, my home state, Nekidi, in the southwest of Nigeria. I was having breakfast. And I had to leave the Red Hot. The Red Hot was one of the bars in the resort. It was a karaoke bar. I, I wanted to take something in my child upstairs, and I went. My phone was on the dining table where I was having my breakfast. By the time I returned, I checked the phone. Wow, that was a missed call. It was my mother. Mama called. Wow, okay. I picked the call. I returned the call, and it was my mother's voice on the phone, very faint. Oh, I'm not good. I'm not good. Mama, what's going on? I'm not good. Where is your housekeeper? Well, he's here. Please give him the phone. He gives the phone to the housekeeper, and I called out the young man. What's wrong with Mama? Mama has been ill for like, and why is she not in the hospital? Mama has refused to go to the hospital. And I said, okay, give Mama back the phone. Give my mother back the phone. Said, Mama, you are going to go to the hospital, please. And she said, I'm not going to any hospital. You know why I'm telling this story? At least I still had time. She had the presence of mind to call. She called all of us her children. We were 7. It was my turn. I was talking with her at the time. She was in Abia State, Southeast Nigeria. I was in Ikiti State, Southwest Nigeria. So it wasn't something I could just get into the car. The nearest airport to go anywhere was a journey on its own So it had to be phone call. But why I'm telling this story is at least not just that she was old, but the fact that we were put on notice. We had time to speak with her, convince, if you like, force her to eventually be taken to the hospital. Yes, that happened that night. She had to be taken to the hospital eventually. She didn't pass on till 2 days later, on a Tuesday. She made that initial call on a Sunday. So she gave us some notice. And she was old. And she was our mother. She had seen us grow, have children. She has seen her grandchildren. She has seen her great grandchildren. Yet, it was like, oh, Mama, why did this happen now? Why? Yeah. How then, or what then would we say, or should we say about a child? No notice, slept. As a matter of fact, his birthday was just 2 weeks ago, 2 Wednesdays ago. Her mother, of course, was very, no problems. You are doing the slow parenting thing. We say, yes, have time for your children. So it's okay. You are on duty. We understand. Last Wednesday, Mrs. Boluatiwiayo Paliki was with us on this program. And we talked about giving and bonding. Giving as some cement that helps with family bonding. And we jokingly, and she jokingly mentioned, oh, well, my last, she jokingly mentioned, oh, well, my last baby, okay, this is what I taught them. And I jokingly said my last baby, and I jokingly said to her, are you sure? And she said, well, in Jesus' name. And we laughed. The very next morning, Thursday, last week, I got a heartbreaking text message from a mother. The message no mother, no father should be made to send out. My son was 17 last week. This morning at about 4:20 a.m., he woke up vomiting, and by 8:20, he has gone to glory. I'm like, is this a joke? Of course it was not. I was punched up. I'm still, I still am. Well, as always in the program, we're not, I'm not alone. I want to welcome Professor Oyewole Sarumi as he joins us on the program. Professor Sarumi, you're welcome. Thank you for being here.
It's a pleasure being.
Professor,
It's a pleasure being here.
Thank you, sir, for joining us. We've had many programs, many episodes talking about pleasant things, encouraging parents. Well, we're still encourage parents today. What's a different kind of encouragement? It's not pleasant one, but like I said at the top side of the program, life is about dealing with living and loss. And I was just giving a backdrop to what had happened to Mrs. Boluwatiwa Yopalike's family, which is also part of our own family, the loss of a child. What do we say to a family that is grieving the loss of a child? Professor Yewole. Hello, Professor.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir.
You see, what has just happened is basically what we call life transition. And basically, psychology, they call it any change or adjustment that impacts one's life in a significant way. And we all experience transition. We will all experience it, either big, either small, either planned or unplanned. Sometimes life transition is centered around something exciting. And sometimes it is centered around things that are quite depressing, stressful, sorrowful, and what have you. Basically, it represents change for us. And such change, could lead to increase in stress, especially when we undergo unexpected transition like the one that our sister just went through. Accident, death, job losses, all of those things. Things that happens to us without warning, that caught us off guard. And then it makes navigating life very, challenging and traumatic. How do we deal with this?
That's
we
a
just
question.
have to. What is it?
I said, that's a question. That's a challenge.
how do we deal with it, especially when we are unprepared? All I would just say is, you see, in my language, they said, until something happens to you, you wouldn't know how to console those who it has happened to. We just have to look at our life and say, well, it has happened. There is nothing I can do about it, because blame game could start here, where you start to blame yourself. What am I to do? What should I have done that I didn't do? All of those things. What happened, God? And then for those of us that are religious, we tend to say, God, why me? I've been serving you, I've been doing this. We start challenging God. That is quite the wrong thing to do. But then, in such traumatic and stressful situation, a lot mind can wander. And a lot of people can say a lot of things that shouldn't have been said. So what we just say is that there is need for personal self-talk here, and probably some withdrawal to, just be able to, assimilate and then think through everything so that one can be able to absorb it. There is nothing people around us can say that can really set our expectation right as at that time. And so withdrawal and also the warmth of the family around us, those who are sympathetic and empathetic around us, it will really help. But then our soul we need to be tended to. And that's where I believe that the word of God will be highly important here, because it is also a period of transformation for people. Because after we come out of that, we will have developed coping skills and then some supporting network, and probably what I call cognitive restructuring, which will have helped us to be able to meditate through the transition course and emotional intensity. And so all the attitude that we have developed will influence the process and help us to be able to set a perceptive control in order to be able to overcome the challenges. It takes time. And it takes commitment to change, because it's so mind had been hurt and bruised. And so the word of God will be very, very important here. Some people will say seek therapy and what have you. Probably yes, if it is becoming mental. But then in this case, all you just need is the warmth of the family. And then so that you can be able to navigate the challenges and understand yourself better. So once you have a good support system, that's one thing I've stressed even when I send message to her. Building a strong support system of caring, of compassionate individual will help to provide the necessary emotional, mental, and practical support during such transition. So developing that connection, through shared activities or mutual interest can be the starting point for building, a supporting network so that the healing can start. But it's one we need to be with his to be aligned with his maker, his God, at this time, and believe that all that happens for a reason, and sometimes we won't know the reason. And so in order not to also harm ourselves, we may need a bit of to practice a bit of self-care, so that we don't look unkept, we don't let our mental health suffer, so that we don't start, another journey into what can cause an overall personal well-being. So all of those. So basically, those are my take now on it.
Okay, Prof. So thank you so very much for those insights. And well, while I was trying to well, not trying to, when I was going through the intro to today's episode, I was like, how do we deal with, the pains of unpreparedness, about the loss of a child, not an adult now. I started telling the story of when my mother passed, how she called all of us and maybe prepared us, at least spoke with us, and we, but that at least we could say, oh, we spoke with her. But when your Professor Wale, you talked about, self-care, communities, even you didn't say, but yeah, it's community. I mean, having the support system around. And again, it's not always easy to tell people what to do about things you've not personally experienced. You also alluded to that. I also alluded to that at the opening. But there's one story, there's one incident that brings everything you have just said there to mind. Several years ago, my late sister, well, she's late now, her last child that time, loved by everyone, was the most popular, most loved grandchild in that family that time. No, fell ill. This is different from this because part of what makes this really punchy, it's not, like I said earlier, there's no age at which anybody passed on that the family would not, I mean, be unhappy, by the passing. And then it's because this young man just went to bed, woke up in the morning, slightly ill, vomiting, and then within hours, that was. But my niece fell ill as a baby, fell ill, and then was diagnosed with cancer. I'm like, that was the first time. I was in the university that time with my first degree. I'm like, how did this happen? How can this? The whole family was devastated. The mother did everything also. So that was a transplant. It was had to go through kidney transplant and a baby, a child. Unfortunately, we lost her. That's the closest I've come to losing a child. But all of the impacts on the family, the general larger family, especially the mother. Okay. My sister at that time wasn't particularly a church person. But then the few times she had interacted with the Christian community, that community built a world of encouragement and comfort around her, which is why I'm telling this story. You've mentioned, support, and self-care. She didn't want to do anything. She wasn't interested in anything anymore. That child was so, she had two children, two elder children for this one, but then she was so close with this child that it was just like her whole world had ended. So she wasn't interested in self-care, but this community, was around her. The church members would come in turns, because again, she lived in Port Harcourt, River State, South Nigeria then. And the rest of the family was in Abia, Southeast. Yeah, family members took turn to go stay with her. My mom would come to the village, stay, and she would, just for a while, she just wanted to go back. I could recall the trauma, the disinterest in anything about life and living. So, Bolu and the family, we encourage you, please. We admonish you. There's still a lot to live for. It's painful. It's punchy, not punching. It knocks the air out of you, knocks the enthusiasm of life out of you. But then there are still the living. There are still the living. Like has been said, what's the title of our story today, of our show today? Dealing with a loss in the family, but we cannot call police for God. That statement of, but you cannot call police for God, was actually a statement that a family member made at the time that we lost my niece. Over 30 years ago, this incident. When this happened, I just remembered it. I'm like, oh God, what do we say to God? You can blame yourself over what? Maybe I should have been lying close to him, or maybe he shouldn't have slept in the room he slept in. Maybe all the could have, should have, would have that would not bring the child back. So let's focus attention, like has been advised or counseled, on the living. On the living. The young man still has brothers and sisters. The father, the other family members. It's not easy to mourn a child. It's not easy to lose anyone, no matter how old. I started this show today by talking about my 102-year-old mother when she passed. We are all devastated, but Mama had been saying to us, okay, well, come. When I'm gone, we'll say, Mama, you're not going anywhere. And she was like, okay, when God says I should come and hold me. And we will laugh then. But she was old. And she prepared us. But this, like Professor Wally had said, is sudden, unprepared. A child, a young man, a young boy. He's not an adult yet. It's a devastating loss. But then there are the living. We need to focus on the living. We need to focus on ourselves, especially that issue of mental health, especially the issue of not sinking into a blame game. Maybe it's my fault. Maybe if I had done this. There's none of those that's going to change what the situation is right now. Please. Okay. If you need to now, Professor Wale, please, in this situation, would it be okay to suggest consulting therapists?
Yeah, it will depend on the emotional situation of both Bolu and the spouse. When things like this happen, psychologists have said that we need to help the two parents to accept the reality of this loss by, gently encouraging them to see and to hold and name and just understand that it is not a dream, and that they should participate, they should hold, even and participate in the memorial service, because that is also sometimes many of them say they won't want to be there, they don't want to be there. So we need to help parents to retain the importance of the mementos, such as photographs, those things that they have shared together, which will become a gentle reminder and evidence of the child's presence. So, and then you connect the family also to other parents who have experienced this kind of loss, in order to be able to at least self-help them, give them, necessary counseling in order to address the trauma. So because grief has different dimension, the individual that is involved, like I said, they are the focus, because sometimes parents can, they can be angry. There'll be anger, there'll be blame. For some of them, will just be laughing and be saying all sorts of things. And they develop inability to really grieve. So, which may assist them to become judgmental, withdrawing, and at the same time start apportioning blame. So what we need to do basically is to, just like I said, because I have been involved in this type of thing where I needed to be close to somebody that the thing happens to. Connecting with them is very important. Connection is going to be very important within the next few months, so as to be able to help them to properly mourn and understand that this is a transition, and that transition can eventually lead to transformation. So that's what I would say.
Okay, Professor. Now we've talked about the parents now, the couple. What do we say to the siblings? What should happen with the siblings? How do they process this? Okay, it seems like we lost Professor Sarumi there. Okay, so Professor Sarumi was talking about connecting with the parents. I would feel that with the same connections and the support systems that the parents are able to get, it would be a major duty for them to also get the other children to come to terms with the reality, because there'll be a lot of, it's like a dream. Is it coming back? Yeah, a lot of saying things that don't add up. So as parents, if we're not able to hold ourselves together, it becomes much more difficult and much more challenging to get the children to be able to come to terms with what's just happened and be able to deal with the loss.
Recording stopped.
It's not helpful to it's not helpful to make the children feel that maybe in any way that this is not real. It's just no. It's helpful to get them to have an understanding that this is as real. It's painful. It's real, but it's painful. We can't reverse it, and we can't blame anyone. Really, it's useful to put these things in this perspective and have these conversations, especially with the remaining, with the siblings of the young man that just passed. Okay, the young person that passed, any family member, especially when, well, it's a young person and you have person has siblings that are here. It's important to let them also be able to process the reality and not remain in denial. Okay. Denial would not help. Okay. Denial will not help. Oh, this is a dream. Yeah, it will certainly feel a whole lot like a dream for a long time, for a really long time, especially on anniversaries, on special days, birthdays, Christmas days, Easter periods, those special times when this young man would have been, especially with things that the family actually maybe depended on him for, looked up to him for, the things that he was one taking care of, or the ones we have the go-to person for specific things in the family. Okay. It's okay to say, oh, well, if this person had been here, it's okay. It's okay to say that. Yeah. It's not the case of don't mention his name. Don't, no. Yeah. Okay.
Recording in progress.
It will not be okay to say don't mention his name. Dealing with the remaining sibling, okay, it's important. It's very important. The parents would need to, as they receive support, as they support each other, they need to extend, the parents equally need to extend that support to the remaining siblings, to their remaining children, okay? To their remaining children. Because if we don't, the pressure might actually be more on the siblings. Okay, you need to get them out of the denial. It's painful, but it's important to make them process the reality of the situation. Okay, I was an uncle. Of my niece then. But it was such a painful situation then that, because she was such a pleasant young woman, baby, and that's the young woman. She was such a pleasant baby that, as the mother is grieving, will just sit on the floor, especially when she had to come to the village and all of us were there with her mother. You will find her in positions and situations that are not, and by that time, she forgot she had 2 other children who were living. That's the challenge. The parents can be lost in their grief and pay less attention to the living. That's what we are saying should be avoided. Okay? It should be avoided. Professor Wale, thank you for, glad to have you back. I think there were technical issues. Even our recordings were stopped. I don't know what happened. And it's good to have you back. We're saying that,
yeah,
we've talked about the parents getting support, being able to think about and deal with self-care, and also being able to deal with mental health issues that could arise if care is not taken. We're saying, what should happen with the remaining siblings vis-a-vis the parents and then the remaining siblings?
Basically, you see, number one thing is the parents themselves. If they are not psychologically focused and if they refuse to heal quickly and they have other children, they are going to, care less about them. Although based on research, it will depend quite on the parents, how they are able to cope. If they're able to cope with the grief quickly and come out of it, they will be able to, focus more on the living siblings and care more for them and always, be careful and when it comes to their health. Because from this, we don't know the details yet. It is highly likely that somebody will just wake up 4 a.m. and start vomiting and died 4 hours later without an underlying, I'm a medical person, so I need to think in that direction. There must be an underlying illness that could have led to that. So, and then nocturnal vomiting like that could be due to a lot of things. So that if they're able to come out of that quickly, then they'll be able to focus on the sibling and care for them more. Because whatever happened, each of the parents will know what they did right and what they didn't do right concerning that child. And so with that in their mind, which probably they will share with those who are very close to them, they are going to, do the needful to care more in a better way or respond better when a child says, "Mommy, I have stomach problem," or "I have a headache," or "I don't know the way my eyes is feeling," or whatever. I'm sure that boy will have given 1 or 2 signs. So they will more or less, be able to prevent such in future, care for the living, and then show strong and social support to ensure that psychologically and physically such thing doesn't happen again.
Thank you, Professor. We've had situations where this kind of unfortunate incidents occur, and it's like, oh, don't mention his name or don't mention her name here. So should that be a right approach to be encouraged in the family?
No. Those are superstitious beliefs, which is inherent in some African tradition. And so in some African tradition, they say, don't mention the name. All of those things, they are quite surreptitious, and it's not something that is encouraged. It's not, but it does happen in a family, but it doesn't solve any problem. Rather, it alienates us from appreciating the situation and making it real so that we can come out of it and move on with our lives. So I wouldn't, that is not an intervention or an approach that is going to be helpful. It's basically inherent in some African tradition and mythology that don't mention the name of a dead person or whatever. That's not going to really make the pain to go away or to shield us from the reality. All we need to do is to come out of our cocoon and then face the reality, and then tell ourselves that it has happened and I need to be of good health in order to take care of the siblings. Because if any of the parents is no more healthy as a result of this, it's going to affect the whole family. If a mother is sick, everybody in the house is sick. If a father is sick, everybody in the house is sick. If a child is sick, everybody in the house is sick. So definitely, it's important that they come out of it as quickly as possible, depending on their threshold of how to overcome suffering and pain and stress. So all we pray for them is that the Lord will continue to succor them and give them the necessary relief in times such as this.
Thank you so much, Professor Wale. I just, we talked about African superstition and all of that. I want to tell another story here. From that perspective, we don't mention the name here to say, yes, it's superstitious. It doesn't hold water, really. Still with my niece, my sister, my only sister, late now, like I said, at the top of the program, and I had another baby, a girl, and named that girl Chioma, the same name, okay, that the one she lost there had. And Chioma today is a fully grown woman in New Brunswick here in Canada. She came to Canada about 3 years ago or so to do her MBA program. So superstitions don't help. The mother overcame the grief. Of course, had another baby, like I just said, and named her the same. It was like, oh, this is a replacement for. We're not saying Bolu should go and get a replacement. We are not suggesting that in any way. We're just saying that, saying, oh, no, this name should not be mentioned, or because it will bring, it didn't bring, there was no ill luck that happened with my niece or with the mother. Like I said, there's a replacement niece. She's close to me. Yes. Well, New Brunswick is not that close to Quebec, not that close to Montreal. But then she's here in Canada, doing well, full-grown young woman. So don't bring the superstition thing in. No, it's gone. It's no longer part of us. Cherish the memories, please. Cherish the memories. Light candles, if you may, if you will, on the birthdays that would have been. Okay, but even if you are not doing it physically, because those are the kind of things that would help the siblings to cope. Okay, to know that this is living, it's life. It's no longer here with us. But if we had been here, or would have been celebrating with us, or would have been celebrating this, with him. It helps individuals deal with the reality of the situation. You don't go wanting to call one child and maybe, if you like, mistakenly mention, say, oh, why did I not call this name? No, he's living, his life is part of you. You cannot cut that part of you out. You can't exercise that part of your family, that part of your being. There's a saying where my mother came from. It says that they say, Afonsiloboyam Obi Organikwe. In English, I would translate. It says, if the womb says, well, I'm not the mother of this child, say, what about the heart? Would the heart, the feelings, yes, the heart, would the heart ever, is it possible to exercise that feeling of, oh, this was my child from your heart? No, it's not possible. So it's still a member of that family, but a member that has passed on to glory. A member that will remind all of us about our humanity, about the fact that we are all pilgrims here, every one of us. And much importantly, that it's a privilege to sleep and wake up every day. So if you think, what's the big deal? Why should I say good morning? What's good about the morning? The first thing that is good about the morning is that you are alive to hear the greeting in the first place. So whether you are an adult or you're a child, it makes sense to be grateful each day as you wake up to pray. Whatever you pray to. Go ahead, sir.
No, I said that's true. I know. I'm just agreeing with what you said.
Yeah, I'll just coming back to you to say, okay, what's your final word for as we begin to round up on the program?
You see, one thing that psychologists, they also said that for things like grieving and all of these, there are short-term, coping mechanism, and then there are long-term coping mechanism. Let me just mention a few of them. Parents are advised that in this moment, they may not feel like eating. They need to try and eat. They may not even feel like sleeping. They need to get enough sleep. Try to rest. Because sometimes sleep is very difficult or impossible. Because grief is exhausting on so many levels. And so it's advised also that you can take a walk, or you could take a break from work. You can take a walk, W-A-L-K, or you take a break from work, W-O-R-K, so that you can be able to have time to reflect, move your body, all of those. I have been close to somebody who was grieved like this. He refused to take his medication. He was hypertensive. So do not neglect your own health. Take your medication. Keep necessary medical appointments or schedule if they are due, because life goes on after this transition. There is need to stick to your routine as much as possible in spite of the disruption caused by this grief. Because, as I always say, there is comfort in structure. But one thing that is important here is that try to avoid any big decision or major life changes as at now. All must be on hold. And like we have said, allow others to help. Consider delegating some of the things you need to do in the interim so that you can allow your emotion. Emotion should be allowed to flow. Yes. They should be allowed to grieve. Grief is important. And like I said, if spiritually you are religious, and then you try to ground yourself in the aspect of your word, either Bible, Quran, Krishna, Gita, whatever your book is, so that you can be able to have a comforting life during this season. So relaxing is important because you need to nurture yourself. In the East religion, they talk about mindfulness, meditation, all of those things, walk in the nature, move with friends, you know, just things that you find peaceful, do it as at this time so that you can be able to heal your soul back. And like I've said, this is a time to spend with people that we love, those who are comforting, those who are safe and supportive. So because you may not be yourself at this time, but the gentle company of supportive people is often a very good thing at the moment. And that basically will be my word for today. But I would like to say that you need to allow yourself to say no. You only have so much energy and bandwidth, and your priority may shift now. You have to say no to certain things.
Okay, sir. Thank you so very much, Professor Yewale, for those closing remarks. Well, family, slow parenting family from across the world, it has not been a pleasant show today because of what we're discussing or what we had to discuss. But then it is life. The French would say c'est la vie. Okay, it is life. We talk about living, we talk about, well, moving on, transitions, like Professor Wale had put it. We talk about living, we talk about transitions, we talk about missing family members, okay? And those are the losses we live with for the rest of our lives for those of us who remain, as long as we remain. But as we close, remaining is a gift. Seeing each day is a gift, whether we are young or whether we are old. We have reasons for which to be grateful to the people we live with, to our Maker. Regardless, whatever you pray to, whatever your belief is in, be grateful each day. See each day as a gift. Live each day, like some have said, as if it were your last, whether you're a child or you're an adult. And as parents, especially to grieving families, grieving couples, please don't blame yourselves. Regardless of but the important thing here is that you can't change what has happened. Blames would only create more problems. Support, this would be a time of a loss in the family, any family, would be a time to band together, to hold together, to heal together. Grieve, weep in whichever ringtone you find comfortable, whether alone, but don't lock the door so that people can reach you. Okay, don't isolate yourself. It's not a good time. A lot of crazy thoughts could come. Resist those crazy thoughts, especially in the case of couples who have other children. Remember, as you are grieving, they too are grieving the loss of their brother or their sister. Pay attention to the living. Thank you very much for staying with us through this rather difficult show today because of what it is we had to talk about. Okay, still be part of this program next week, next Wednesday, same time, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, US and Canada, and 7 p.m. West African time, including Nigeria. You can always join us live on YouTube. Last episode we had people coming to the waiting room and the Zoom platform. Sorry, you want to be part of the program live, please go to our YouTube channel. And if you missed the program, go to the YouTube channel too. You find videos of previous episodes. You can still watch the videos. You can still leave your comments, ask your questions, raise your issues, put your perspective down. We will respond. Okay? Or if you want to reach us directly for any issues on parenting, you will find, the email addresses to reach us through as you go to the YouTube channel. Thank you so very much for being part of our show today. Stay safe, please, and continue to be appreciative to whatever you pray to for life. Bye-bye. See you next week.
All right, bye. Parenting is simplicity parenting. Simplicity parenting.
We want to discourage a particular behavior, right? We want to deter that behavior from occurring in the future. And so we apply.
So we are talking about responsibility. We also talking, remember that your children want to be you. They're not talking about that person that's out.
Exceptions to every rule, and no matter the best or the most noble of mirroring that we do modeling, sometimes they veer off. I know that there are exceptions.
Focus on quality time rather than the other type of parenting where you look at